I said they never know wetin we carry for body.
Until they move closer before them to sabi.
Ọ̀kín lọ lọ́jà ẹyẹ, ìníhùn ló ló lajú.
Ẹyẹ tó lórí kodò bí àdán apẹ̀jẹ̀ lẹ́nu.
Ká ṣiṣẹ́ fún ilẹ̀ bàbá wa, ká ṣiṣẹ́ fún ìlú bàbá wa, ká jùmọ̀ sowọ́pọ̀ ká lè tó dúdú àga.
Odùduwà kò bá lè gbé wa.
Ọmọ Odùduwà ṣègìrì, ẹ dìde fún ẹ̀tọ́ adúláwọ̀, ká lè jọ jùmọ̀ gbé délẹ̀ ìlérí, ká wálé gba ògo ilẹ̀ wa, ká ṣiṣẹ́ ká lè jọ gbàdé, ká lè gbàdé adé adúláwọ̀, àwa ní ìmọ̀lẹ̀ tí yóò tàn káàkiri.
Pé ọmọ Odùduwà ni wá.
Koikimedia, àwa là ń gbé tó lárugẹ.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tí wọ́n mọ̀ ní.
Kásá ẹgbẹ́ polówó ọjà wà kájé bùgbà yín jẹ.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tí wọ́n mọ̀ ní.
À ń gbé tó lárugẹ, à ń gbàsà lárugẹ.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tí wọ́n mọ̀ ní.
News and sports ẹ máa rí gbọ́.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tí wọ́n mọ̀ ní.
Ọmọ Ìjẹ̀bú alárẹ̀mí ló ní kí n máa ké tantan. Koikimedia ọ̀rọ̀ lágbájúmọ̀ mi o, máa bá ṣẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ o. Ọmọ Yorùbá nìyẹn, ọmọ Yorùbá tata o. À ń gbádùn rẹ ọmọ Ìjẹ̀bú alárẹ̀mí, ṣẹ́yìn lọ máa fi dìbò tẹ̀ mọ́lẹ̀ o. Ẹ̀yin lọ́mọ onígbò máa ń dé mádémádé, ẹ̀yin lọ́mọ onígbò máa wọ̀ o. Igbó máa wọ̀ tájòjì ò gbọ́dọ̀ wọ, àjòjì tó bá wọ bẹ̀ á tẹ̀lé ní ẹbọra. Ẹ̀yin lọ máa náwó kóyìnbó tó dé, ìgbà tó yìnbó dé o, owó náà dẹ́ tún pọ̀ sí o. Koikimedia ṣàwa ní bàbá. Koikimedia àwọn ní bàbá.
Koikimedia àwọn ní bàbá.
Àdáńtọ́ àtúnpèrègèdè.
Koikimedia àwọn ní bàbá.
Àwa là ń gbé tó lárugẹ, jẹ́ ká jọ gbọ́ o.
Koikimedia àwọn ní bàbá.
Àtúnjà fẹ́tọ̀ ilẹ̀ wa, fẹ́tọ̀ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá.
Koikimedia àwọn ní bàbá.
Ọmọ Oòduà ni wá o, tọkàntọkàn.
Koikimedia àwọn ní bàbá.
Ikú tí ó ṣe bí lébi òsì, àdìmú bàbá iyọ̀.
Koikimedia àwọn ní bàbá.
We bring you work closer to your doorstep.
Koikimedia àwọn ní bàbá.
Afẹ́fẹ́ tó ń fẹ́ òòdùn kan kí oko lára ni.
Koikimedia àwọn ní bàbá.
Àpèrègèdè Olódùmarè ló fún wa ṣe.
Koikimedia àwọn ní bàbá.
Gbogbo ayé ẹ gbọ́, àwa ní bàbá o.
Koikimedia àwọn ní bàbá.
Ẹ máa bọ̀ wá ẹgbẹ́ polówó ọjà yín wá o.
Koikimedia àwọn ní bàbá.
Odùduwà lágbédá ní, òtítọ́ lágbédá ní.
Koikimedia àwọn ní bàbá.
A kì í sọ̀dálẹ̀, a kì í sóní kẹta.
Koikimedia àwọn ní bàbá.
Àdúró tán, àtúnpèrègèdè.
Koikimedia àwọn ní bàbá.
Koikimedia we bring you work closer to your doorstep.
Àwọn ní bàbá.
Koikimedia is around.
To give us latest.
Is around
To
o.
give us latest.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Ẹ mú kalẹ̀ sílẹ̀, ẹ tẹ́tí ẹ gbọ́ ètò tó pọ̀jù owó.
ladies and gentlemen,
Ẹ mú kalẹ̀ sílẹ̀, ẹ tẹ́tí ẹ gbọ́ ètò tó pọ̀jù owó.
Koikimedia is around.
To give us latest.
Koikimedia.
Okay, a very good morning. We are literally just about some few minutes before the program. And I say good morning and happy new week, as we say yesterday and as we say today. My name is OLAYOMI KOIKI, and we have this presentation for just about 45 minutes. Please sit back and let's enjoy it. And I hope you learn one or two things. Mo kí gbogbo wa pé a káàárọ̀ níbi tí a bá wà ní aago mẹ́fà ó kọjá 24 minutes ní ọ̀dọ̀ tèmi níbí báyìí. Different time zone around the world. My name is OLAYOMI KOIKI. Koikimedia, bringing the world closer to your doorstep. This is one out of so many platforms that is used to educate Yoruba people on the reason why we need to exit Nigeria and have our own independent country. Self-determination, as we all know, is a right, and that right is something that is inalienable. The Yoruba people are not the only one around the world, and I hope you can hear me loud and clear. Please let us know in the comment section. I will not be able to start mentioning names, but we do appreciate each and every single one of you that has joined us again this morning. As this platform, I've said again and again that no person around the world has any reason to interrupt or tell us why we should remain in Nigeria. America doesn't have the right to tell us to remain in Nigeria. Neither does Britain, European countries, African countries. We will be given our self-determination, which says, according to the United Nations, Article 3, indigenous people have the right to self-determination. That right is what we are using. That right is what we are practicing as we speak almost in the last 3 years. That right will be respected by the United Nations, ECOWAS, and all the communities around the world. These, according to United Nations, by the virtue of that right, we will be freely determine their own political status, not the one that is currently with Nigeria as we speak today. We would also pursue our own economy, not the current economic situation that have destroyed the Yoruba land and likewise turned majority of our people into abject poverty. We will be able to look after our people, not those that will come on the social media and ask for money so that they can be able to take care of our people back home from whatever the current situation is as we speak today. We will be able to have our own cultural development where we can be able to use that for the purpose of looking after the future and the present Yoruba people. When some say that what is the reason why we want Yoruba nation, I want us to quickly look at the screen again this morning. The reason why we are agitating, we are campaigning, we are asking for the disintegration of what is known as Nigeria that was put together by the British Empire, the colony in 1914. Some of those reasons will be mentioned again this morning before we go into the last half an hour of the program again this morning. Our identity is one of the major reasons why we are asking for self-determination. That identity is not the present one. Give it to us under what is known as Nigeria today. Our true identity is not Nigerian. It is the British in 1914 that decided to take away our true identity and force what is known as Nigeria on us today. Àwọn Britain ni wọ́n kó wa papọ̀ pẹ̀lú Nigeria in 1914 fraudulent amalgamation. And we are now saying to the British Empire, the United Kingdom, the kings, the politicians, that we, the Yorubas, have now stand for our right to self-determination, and that right will be respected. Until then, there might not be peace in the present day Nigeria, because we cannot sit back and allow some individuals from wherever they've come from to take over our indigenous territory. Those are those that have been brought in by the former president, and those that have interest to make sure that our lands are taken away from us. So our identity and our language will be respected. Èdè tiwa la fi máa sọ within Nigeria. We are not interested in the English that the British colony forced on every indigenous people. As we speak this morning, we have nothing less than over 250 different languages inside the contraction called Nigeria, and that is not a country. We are also going to have our own passport, just as the British have their own passport that allows and enables them to travel to many countries without visas. Those as also as Americans, those as Italians, the Germans, we do not want to have or carry a Nigerian passport moving forward. We want to have our own indigenous passport, known as whatever name we decide to call it, either Oduduwa Republic, Yoruba Kingdom, Yoruba Nation, whatever that may be, will be determined and decided by the Yoruba people. We want to have our own currency, because during when the UK was part of the European Union, they refused to change their currency to the European Union. After 35 years, UK pulled out of the European Union and the world did not come to an end. The Yoruba people will pull out of Nigeria, and we will pull out because it is our fundamental right under the United Nations, under whatever law around the world, and nobody will be able to stop that under the leadership of Professor Adebanji Akintoye. The Yoruba people will exit Nigeria. We want to make sure that we take over our resources under the current fraudulent 1999 Constitution as amended. We know that that Constitution, as many have said, let's listen, that this Constitution that has been forced on every Nigerian, regardless, and I saw the news yesterday where the current Lagos State Governor, the Afenifere, are now asking the current President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to go back and review the same fraudulent Constitution that Bola Tinubu, the President, is using to govern Nigeria today. The fraudulent Constitution was put together to make sure that that will be used to subjugate and put those indigenous people that owns the resources. The resources doesn't belong to China. The resources doesn't belong to United Kingdom, the European Union. Those resources belong to us, and we will do whatever is needed to pull out of Nigeria so that we can use those resources to look after our people, so that many Nigerians that are Yorubas will not have to travel to Libya, to Europe, to wherever around the world, so that they are looking for what is called greener pasture. Those resources belong to us, and we will pull out. Let's listen to this quickly before we continue the program.
We have problems in the land. And the problems, I want to say this, I might be off the cuff, is because of our constitution. Also, Nigeria is not operating any constitution known to honesty, entrenched in group faith, brought about by unanimity of the people, acceptable to federalism, and again, that is also, we also have that problem in the judiciary because of the Nigerian situation. We have a unitary system. That's what we run. Hydra-headed. Don't let us pretend. And I've said it over and over, and I'll continue to say it. And that's unitarism has also crept into the judiciary. Today, the entire Nigerian judiciary is unitarized. The Supreme Court is federal, Federal Court of Appeal, the Court of Appeal is federal, Federal High Court is federal, FCT is federal, National Industrial Court is federal, Customary Court of Appeal of the Federal High Court is federal, Sharia Court of Appeal of the Federal High Court is federal. All jurisdictions that the Coyote Church of this world, that the Okutas of this world, that the Bailiffs of this world, when they were in their respective high courts, exercised, making the law to be profound, succulent, rich, exciting, they are now vested in the different federal high court or federal courts. We're talking of how to reform the system. There is no justification in a state, in a nation like Nigeria, purporting to practice federalism, where even the Supreme Court should be overburdened with unnecessary jurisdiction in respect of land matters from Yoruba land, respect of divorce, respect of family matters, chieftaincy matters. How do they know? I don't want us to be deceiving ourselves. Assuming I'm even appointed to the Supreme Court today, I'm above the age, but assuming, and I'm sitting there, and you bring a matter on appeal in respect of Kanuri native law and custom, or Igbo native law and custom, or Igbo land tenure system, and I sit there and I'm writing judgment. I'm a Yoruba man. What do I know about that? Those kind of cases to stop at the state, either Court of Appeal or Supreme Court. Go to the United States of America. Each state has its own Supreme Court. We are running into trouble. We are inching there, and time is not in our favor. And I'm not tickled by what the National Assembly is doing. They are not being fair to themselves. They are not being fair to us. They claim to be amending the Constitution. What are they amending? And I want to repeat it. Do you amend something that is not amendable? When you want to amend the Constitution, by the way, Lati, where do you start? You start from the preamble. We the people? Oh yes, they have to amend it. Why are they running away from it? If they cannot amend the preamble, if the preamble is not amendable, then it means the Constitution is not amendable. Come on. They have to start from it. Do you start reading your letter from the back page? Do you? No, they have to start from the preamble. That means the preamble is fake. We the people, who are the we? When did we meet? And why can't we do it? I've studied the constitutions of the world. And I say this also with every sense of humility. There is no constitution that is near as fake, near as deceitful, near as make-believe in nature and in content as the Constitution, as what we call the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. Funke!
Continue to join us. Bear with me, sorry, my mic was muted. I will just say the mic is back on. Bear with us. Once again, this program ends at 7 a.m., which is what I was saying earlier. And likewise, that will be 8 a.m. in Nigeria. You are 1 hour ahead of us. Today's day is still the 19th of the 3rd of March, 2024. As you've listened to Chief Olanipekun, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is a fraud. Yesterday, if you look at the news dailies in Nigeria, Vanguard says, and I quote, Nigeria doomed without new constitution. Anya Oku Adebanjo, which I believe is Afenifere, Nwachukwu Ata, and even Governor Sanwo-Olu says that those constitutions that we have presently is a fraud. Lagos to halt the raging insecurity and social economic crisis and redirect Nigeria on the path of growth and development. There is an urgent, did you see that? There is an urgent need to do away with the 1999 Constitution and give Nigeria a new people's constitution. I want us to take note of that. Give Nigeria a new constitution. The present constitution this morning is a fraud and it will not make any impact on our lives. This was a consensus. This was a consensus of the elder statesmen, some serving lawmakers, political leaders, lawyers who converged on Lagos yesterday, the 18th of March 2024, for what is known as the National Constitutional Dialogue, organized by the Patriot, a group of eminent Nigerians and elders in honor of late legal luminary Professor Ben Iwa-Buzu, senior advocate of Nigeria. The theme, lawful procedures for actualizing a people's constitution for Nigeria. So that literally indicates that the current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu would not be able to fulfill whatever dreams that he has for Nigeria based on this fraudulent constitution. And we should have something to back that before we move forward. Once again, my name is OLAYOMI KOIKI as we continue to highlight the dangers ahead that this constitution is not representing myself and the 200 million Nigerians this morning. Let's listen to Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Advocacy.
President Tinubu needs to put his best foot forward to govern the country. If he does that, in 4 years, he can turn things around. But there are certain critical things he would need to do. The first thing is to say, what's the constitution? If, for instance, me and my wife Lillian don't agree in our marriage of 45 years, then we can't do anything. So the first thing that President Tinubu would need to do is to ensure that Nigerians all agree to be one country. You recall that Bola Ige asked those two questions. Do we want to be one? It's not by force. If we want to be one, how? We haven't answered those questions, which is why I told President Babi of the Senate that it has taken 23 years to solve the problem of the Constitution. And I urged him, in conjunction with President Tinubu, to resolve the Nigerian constitutional question now by inviting the owners of Nigeria. The owners of Nigeria, mark you, were those who owned Nigeria before Lugard brought his amalgamation in 1914. Call them in. These are the people who own the country, and ask them questions. What do you want to see of the Constitution? Because without a Constitution, we're going nowhere. And no one will doubt the fact that the Constitution bequeathed by the military in 1999 is unsatisfactory. You can't build anything out of a weak foundation. The economic development policy of President Tinubu, the political development policy of President Tinubu, and everything else he wants to do rests on a very solid foundation. So let him immediately resolve that. How can we spend 23 years looking for a foundation for building a house? Does that make sense to anybody? So that's my number one issue. We need to resolve this issue of, do we want to be one? And mark you, the flip side of the question is that we mustn't be one, because Yugoslavia, which was 6 countries under Marshal Tito, when he died, decided to break apart. And today, a lot of them are very strong countries: Macedonia, Croatia, Slovenia, Slovakia. They're all doing well. So there is no sacrosanctity about Nigeria being one country. There's none. I personally would wish for Nigeria to be one country, but we must agree. Now that is the problem. Because we have not agreed, and because the National Assembly has appropriated to itself the all-knowing wisdom of giving us a constitution, that is the weakness. So that's the starting point.
Well, you've just listened, to the Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Advocacy. Nigeria cannot be forcing us as Nigerians or as indigenous people to be known to be part of what is called Nigeria. And when you talk about self-determination, just not the Yoruba people or the Biafra or the Arewa or the Middle Belt are the only one asking for self-determination. Around the world today, there are many indigenous people. The Wales are saying to the United Kingdom that they will not want to be part of United Kingdom. They would rather want to have their own independent Welsh country. The Scotland are saying the same thing, and let's hear what the Scottish people are saying.
Other countries were refused at first, but we have to remember, and this is a really important point, that self-determination is an inalienable international right and a law as well. And other countries will recognise Scotland's democratic choice expressed at the ballot box. They will recognise that because that is the route that many other countries have taken in order to become independent. And just to make that point, that international law is very pragmatic on that point, so we should have confidence in that.
We should also have confidence for those of you that are always arguing the other way around, that whether the Yoruba people should leave Nigeria or be part of those that will fix Nigeria, those that are asking for the restructure of Nigeria, maybe you should listen to this.
Impediment to Yoruba development is the impediment to Odua development. Without Nigeria, we won't be where we are. 1962, we were far ahead of South Korea and North Korea. We were far ahead of China even. We had television before France. We had radio before South Africa. Now look at where we are today. I think it's a shame that even any Yoruba man can be talking about restructuring at this point in time. What are we restructuring? This country that is already shot to pieces? I don't think that's what we want. But they are always talking about giving Nigeria a chance. The patience of Yoruba with Nigeria has come to an end.
And it has actually come to an end. But the problem is we have our political gladiators that are refusing to accept that Nigeria is no longer for us. It's an impediment. If you look at the screen again this morning before we move swiftly, Welsh independence support up amid surge among young people. But the young Yoruba people that should be supporting this self-determination are still trying to fix what their fathers and their great-grandfathers were unable to fix. Many young Yoruba people that are around the world today are still trying to invest in Nigeria. There's nothing wrong in that. But you're likely going to lose everything that you plan to do within the context of Nigeria, because Nigeria policy will kill the business. We've seen the binaries. We've seen many businesses that are pulled out of Nigeria. So whatever your dreams as Yoruba people around the world, you should be supporting this movement just as the Welsh people are doing as well this morning. 19th of July 2023 last year, the Welsh independence has now gained more support among the young people. But I'm not sure why the young Yoruba people are still thinking that there will be a global path to making Nigeria work. I understand the passion for love of what is called the contraction that was forced on us. But we can do very well within the Yoruba land, have an economy that will work for me and you. If you're one of those that still try to fix Nigeria this morning, you might want to fix your own independent Yoruba country. Fún àpèjúwe ẹ̀yin ọ̀dọ́ tí à ń sọ fún pé Yorùbá ní ká jọ support ká kúrò nínú Nàìjíríà, kò ń ṣe pé ká support Yorùbá pé kó di president, ìyẹn kọ́ là ń sọ. Àwọn ará Welsh àwọn náà fẹ́ dá dúró gẹ́gẹ́ bí orílẹ̀-èdè. Tá bá lọ wo ìlú tó ń pè ní Welsh ní àárọ̀ yìí, a quick review of them says, and I quote, that Welsh is a Celtic language. Wọ́n ní èdè tiwọn àmọ́ wọ́n sọ Gẹ̀ẹ́sì níbẹ̀. Kódà tó bá lọ sí police wọn ní Wales láàárọ̀ yìí láti lọ report nǹkankan, tá bá wọnú website South Wales Police, as you can see in your screen, ó máa béèrè pé ṣé èdè Welsh ló fẹ́ fi wọlé àbí èdè English. Bó ṣe máa rí lọ́jọ́ iwájú, ọ̀rọ̀ state police kan là ń béèrè lọ́wọ́ President Bola Tinubu. Ọ̀rọ̀ pé ká pín Nàìjíríà kólúkálukú máa lọ, so that we can have our language when we go on the police website that will be a Yoruba police website in the future. What you're looking in front of you is exactly what we have been telling many of you, that we will have the system just as many other countries have done so. So this website is telling me whether I want to go in with Welsh language or English language. And if I say Welsh, that means that this website will automatically be telling me everything about the police force in Wales, a country less than 5 million, which is about 4 when we look at Lagos population this morning. The reason why Lagos is becoming really, really difficult for the Yoruba people is because we have many other indigenous people that are living with us, but the pressure of what Lagos is getting from the federal is not enough. Lagos should have been an own independent country, just as the Welsh people are asking the same thing. So again, I am saying to you, ẹ̀yin ọ̀dọ́ wa nílé, trying to support this fraudulent country is not going to work. Again, you can see that the official language of Wales says Wales. Their own ethnicity said Welsh. Why then are we forcing ourselves? The population of Wales this morning says is not up to 6 million. The whole population of United Kingdom is 66.84 million as of 2019. London alone, where I live for the last 24 years, is 8.9 million. Yet, Rishi Sunak, that is the current Prime Minister in UK, is less than my age, 43 years old. I am older than him. So when some of you are saying that we should listen to Rishi Sunak, my question is, does Rishi Sunak will control the current political party in UK and our current Prime Minister? Rishi Sunak is a British politician who has served as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and the leader of the Conservative Party since 2022. He will be the first British Asian Prime Minister. He previously held two cabinets. He was born in 1980. So many of you, maybe you will be the first Yoruba president. Why then are you trying to save Nigeria, knowing fully well that you would not even be given access as the political leader within the contraction of APC, PDP, and the Labour Party? Not even Sowore that wanted to do it, he doesn't gain any support from the youth. So when you look at Rishi Sunak, many of you, you are still living with your parents, you are living with your sisters, you are living with your auntie, you are being spoon-fed. Maybe you should have been the one in charge of being the first Prime Minister of Biafra. And when you look at Simon Ekpa as an example this morning, Simon Ekpa at one point also believed in Nigeria, just like I believe in Nigeria, until we start understanding that there's nothing called Nigeria, it is just a crime. Again, you look at Simon Ekpa, this young man that is the current Prime Minister, government in exile. Many of Nigerians continue to criticize him. Many Nigerians continue to talk about him negatively. Yet, when you look at the age of Simon Ekpa and British Prime Minister, it is just a difference of 2 years, if I'm right. Yeah. Simon Ekpa is just 5 years below Rishi Sunak. Yet, Rishi Sunak determined how I live in this country, how he governed me, and even though we might not be voting him back because I do not agree with all his policy, being the conservative, life has been very difficult for many of us, not just myself, many indigenous or English or those that have lived in this country called UK since he became the Prime Minister. His policy has been very, very bad and worse. The same way, if you're looking for the policy of the current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you will not gain anything out of it because Tinubu will not be able to fulfill his dream for the better Nigeria, just as Rishi Sunak. Tinubu is 71 years old, even though his age is in question. But I am talking about Simon Ekpa this morning. Many of you thinking that he does not have the capability to take Biafra out of Nigeria, you will wait and your life will change even when that happens. So maybe this is the time that Nigerians should start thinking that Rishi Sunak does not control the territory of the Biafra, just as he does not control the territory that belongs to the Yoruba people. We have our right to self-determination, and that takes me straight to my website where I'm going to be reading this from because of time constraint this morning. My name is OLAYOMI KOIKI. United Nations Declaration on the Right of Indigenous People. My website is known as www.koikimedia.com. Nigeria is a crime scene, and you are not likely to gain anything out of Nigeria. It is coming up to almost 7 a.m. in London. A very beautiful, bright weather. Many of us have lived here for over 3, 4, 2 decades, and we do not want to live here anymore. We want to go back home, but we are not talking about going back home to the crazy country called Nigeria. We want to have our own independent Yoruba country. Let's go straight to this quickly. United Nations Declaration on the Right of Indigenous Peoples, which is the right that we are currently practicing this morning. And that right will be respected by the current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, whether he likes it or not. The Yorubas, the Biafra, the Middle Belt, the Arewa, and as many nations that wants to pull out of Nigeria will do so, and we hope that it can be done without any confrontation. Let me say this, nobody has any access to monopoly of violence. If the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria refuse to allow us to deliberate and talk about the dissolution of Nigeria, there will be war in Nigeria and nothing can stop that. Go and look at what is currently happening in Haiti. America, with all their superpower, as at yesterday, according to the BBC, have not yet been able to defeat the Yemenis Houthis. They've put every resources. For 4 months, they've been trying to destroy Houthi because of the passage of the Red Sea. They've not been able to achieve that. So if you think that America is coming to save Nigeria, when that right time comes and we're going to fight and defend our land against the invader, you might want to start thinking otherwise. America, and I repeat again, I listened to that on the BBC 10 o'clock news last night. 4 months, they've bombed Yemen. They've destroyed as many of their arsenal. But yet, the Houthis continue to hold on to the Red Sea, that no passage of ships will pass through there. And this means that if Nigeria think that they will be able to defeat the Biafra, the Yorubas, and those that want to exit Nigeria, I want them to start thinking otherwise. This is not 1967. This time around, people will fight with their last blood. And like I said to you, 72 hours, I will be returning to Nigeria to be part of that game. If anybody thinks that what we are talking about on a daily basis is a joke, you should go and look at why America have not been yet able to defeat Houthis that have hold on to their line. The Nigerian military, the Nigerian DSS, the Nigerian Navy, whatever security architect you have in Nigeria, are not up to 1 million. We can do this without fighting, but if they think that using a gun or using a bomb to destroy the Southeast will stop the Biafra, they might have to start thinking, because people will fight back. But under the United Nations, we don't need to go through that, because the United Nations says, and I quote, resolution was adopted at the General Assembly on the 13th of September 2007 without reference to the main committee A/61/L.67 and added point 1, 61/295. It says, and I read, United Nations Declaration on the Right of Indigenous People. That right is what the Biafra are practicing. That right is what the Yoruba are practicing. That right is what the indigenous people want. And whether the politician likes it or not, we will come after each one of you when the right time comes. Like I said yesterday, the slave that you are putting in the chain will come out one day and they will use that chain to tie your neck. But we don't need to go through that process. But if you think that people will sit back and continue to allow their resources to be taken to China, their resources to be controlled by the Western globalists that wants to portray us as puppets in Africa, knowing fully well who we are, people will fight back. And that will be more than what is currently happening in Haiti. And like I said, if the Yoruba people, if Bola Tinubu that you think is going to give you Yoruba nation, you better start thinking and let's move out and ask for our right to self-determination. We're just about 5 minutes to the end of this program. Taking note of the recommendation of the Human Rights Council contained in its Resolution 1-2 of 29th June 2006, by which the Council adopted the text of the United Nations Declaration on the Right of Indigenous Peoples, recalling its Resolution 61/178 of the 20th of December 2006, by which it decided to defer consideration of an action of declaration to allow time for further consultation thereon, and also decide to conclude its consideration before the end of the 65th or 61st session of the General Assembly. Adopt the United Nations Declaration on the Right of Indigenous People as contained in the annex to the present resolution. 107 Preliminary Meeting, 13th of September 2007. Annex, United Nations Declaration on the Right of Indigenous People. The General Assembly, guided by the purpose and the principles of the Charter of the United Nations and the good faith in fulfillment of the obligation assumed by the state in accordance with the Charter. Self-determination is our right, and we are fulfilling that right under this article, under this right. affirming that the indigenous peoples are equal to all other peoples while recognizing the right of all peoples, regardless of whatever the government thinks about us. We are not terrorists, we are not separatists. Stop listening to that crazy man called Abati that continue to call us separatists. They are part of the crime scene because Abati was one time working with the PDP in the presidency. He has eaten so much money and he has now become one of those against the Yoruba people and the Biafra that are asking for their right to self-determination. The British, the Americans, the European countries, the African countries, the Asian countries would all respect us as indigenous people because there's nothing called Nigeria. It is all part of the game that was put together by the British Empire where, like I said, because I'm going to close this now, but I want us, I've been talking about the Church of England, and because many of you thought I've been reading this off-air, maybe we should quickly just show you the evidence. Church of England, as the last part of this program, invested so much that today the Church of England has now decided that they will pay certain amount of money. Sky News on the 4th of March 2024 headline, Church of England should aim to raise £1 billion to address historical links to slavery. Groups 1. Why? As Church of England decided to be part of what was used for 500 years for slavery. £100 million fund was set up by the Church of England to address its historical links to slavery. Is too small and too slow, a new report has said. Last year, the Church of England set up a program to invest in research and engage with communities who were adversely affected by its historical link to transatlantic slave trade. Over a 9-year time frame, it earmarked £100 million. That is too small because as at that time, our forefathers were not paid for the job they were doing for 300 years that Church of England benefited from. Tó bá yé tí mò ń sọ, fún over 300 years, the Church of England fi ń gba owó lọ́wọ́ ẹrú, òwò ẹrú tó ṣe. And the report that I've been reading since yesterday, you can also check it out at the churchofengland.org. This platform does not talk about fake news. This platform does not give you false information. Whatever I read out is part of a research that my team have been doing. And this is why we say, dip your hand into your pocket and support this particular media organization so that we can compete. We can go out and do more documentary that will be able to fulfill the dreams of the Yoruba people. Don't wait for the English. Don't wait for those that will tell you otherwise. And I just want to show you a particular video that I talked about some few days ago where I was watching Boko Haram in Africa. Many of you might not. Okay, it's not this one. Sorry. Yeah, it is here. You can see that this particular video that is coming up on your screen, Boko Haram in the terror in Africa. Over 1.4 million people have watched it, but when we do programs, you do not share it because you are waiting for the Western media to come and talk about what I have been talking about for 3 years. Let's just listen to the snake view of this particular, documentary. Over 1.4 million people have watched it. The reason why you are not supporting us is because you are waiting for the BBC, the British Bias Corporation, that many Biafra and the Yorubas have gone to their headquarters in London to ask for our right to be projected on their screen, but they refuse to do so. Let's listen to this for just another few minutes because I got to go now. I have other things to do this morning.
We are at the outpost in Dindin.
Every morning, the officer puts pressure on his men.
Commanding officer, quick. At the ready.
The outpost is even equipped with a mortar. The lieutenant knows that Boko Haram is nearby.
This is Nigeria ahead of us. The houses you see right there,
How many meters?
200, 300 meters. My job is to secure the border and prevent Boko Haram's raids so people can live in peace. We're on the lookout around the clock, whether for suicide bombers or actual warfare.
What if someone comes up to you? What do you do?
If someone comes up to us,
I'm sorry, I will not be able to play more because this doesn't belong to me. What you've just watched is just under 54 minutes. Simon Ekpa has done more about educating Nigerians about the same problem, but because Nigerians do not believe in Simon Ekpa, but many of them have probably watched this video, and if you think that Boko Haram is going anywhere soon, you must be living in denial. Just before I go quickly going back to the Church of England, I was showing you a particular section in there, and that is where I'm just going to show you before I end this program this morning. Because many of you, when we read things out without showing you the screen, you probably think we're reading it off air. I'm going to read this quickly, and I will not just explain because I've done the explanation in my previous broadcast about a few days ago. Forward words. The Bishop of Manchester, the Right Reverend Dr. David Walker, Deputy Chair of the Church Commissioners, Board of Governors, and Alan Smith, First Church Estate Commissioner. When the Church Commissioners Board of Governors Audit Committee in 2019 proposed research into our endowment fund history and whether it is profited from historical transatlantic slavery, we immediately understood the importance and the relevance of this project. The transatlantic slave economy played a significant role in shaping who we are as a society, a country, and a church, and we need to understand it. Our research was natural extension of the Church Commissioner's overarching mission. The Church Commissioner, part of which was founded in 1704, supports the mission and the ministry of the Church of England, particularly in areas of need, and seeks to invest for a better future in perpetuity. We believe every person is created in God's image. New Testament teaching is focused on God's desire for human beings to live in harmony. Justice in this case, racial justice must be part of, not distinct from biblical theology and the Church Commission's work. 3 years later, the research was clear. The origins of the funding partly came from the adherent practice of enslaving people between 200 and 300 years ago. The concept of the Sankofa, looking back to move forward to a better future, enable us to make a commitment to truth telling, especially where historical truth are concerned, which has always been an attribute of the people of God. This can lead to hope, change, and renewal. We are deeply saddened by the news, but recognize it enables us to set an example of moral leadership, rigorous scholarship, meaningful action that other organizations committed to a better, fairer future will also follow. Pushing this report in 2023, soon after the global pandemic and the humanitarian tragedy, which was quickly followed by economic crisis and war, gave us a pause. What could we possibly learn from 300 years of slave, which the Church of England benefited from, and how that will be relevant today? We believe a better future only comes from understanding our present as well as the past that got us here. As James Baldwin, the African-American author, said in The Fire Next Time, if you know whence you came from, where you came, there is really no limit to where you can go. Many of you need to go and read more why Church of England was used as part of the transatlantic slave for over 300 years. My name is OLAYOMI Koiki. This is how far we can go this morning. I hope you've enjoyed the program. If you do, also remember that every support is voluntary. The account details is there. There's a PayPal, musakalam1@gmail.com. And please stop asking me why we're asking for funding. I am funding the BBC that doesn't represent me in this country. And yet, each time we go to their site or their headquarters or their head office in central London, they are not likely to talk about what I talk about. So when we say support us, if you want to send us a Zelle, get in touch with me. I will give you the details how you can do that for those of you in America. If you want to send us in Naira, we do also accept Naira. You can also click on the link that says support me at thekofi.com. Without the media, you are not likely to get Yoruba Nation. You need the media to fight the big monster that are holding us back. Once again, every support is voluntary. If many of you continue to support, we can pull out many programs in more languages as well, like French, which also will be of benefit to capture those of us that are living in Benin Republic, which Koikimedia is currently working on. But without funding, we can only do the little that we can do. And on that note, I say a very good morning. Enjoy the rest of the week. But remember that Britain, Americans will not ask you to go out of Nigeria. You would have to do that on your own. The next image that you will see, these are all the countries that Britain colonized for 200 years. Good morning and bye for now.